But let's get straight to it then and start with today's breaking news, and that's that Spurs could be interested in signing Liverpool forward Cody Gakpo. Dan, they've already spent big this summer, Spurs, haven't they? Bring us up to date on what we know about this potential deal.
Yeah, absolutely, Gail. Well, we've seen Tottenham Hotspur make huge investment in the defence and midfield already this window, but Roberto De Zerbi really wants to add to those ranks in terms of a forward. And as we've been reporting, Spurs very much interested in the potential signing of Liverpool's Cody Gakpo. Now, we know he's a very versatile forward. He can play on the left or through the middle. We've seen that at Liverpool in the last 12 months. The only thing is, on the Liverpool perspective, is he has a long time left on his contract, 4 years left. So any potential deal will not come cheap. But we know Tottenham, as I mentioned, looking for a forward to add to Roberto De Zerbi's side. Whether there is moves to be done here, with Cody Gakpo having a lot of competition on the flanks, we'll have to wait and see.
Sebastian, we know, didn't we, that Roberto De Zerbi promised this bomber, this kind of signing out of nowhere, a little bit star-studded, a little bit shock everybody. Would Gakpo be it?
He could potentially be it. But I think, first and foremost, I like the narrative of Roberto De Zerbi, like the fact that he kept Spurs in, and now the fact that he's keeping everybody on his toes. I think that brings a lot of attention to Spurs. But in terms of Cody Gakpo, I like his profile because he's a winger, but that can play, as you said, rightly so, up front as a number 9. But he's not the quickest. He's the one that can link up in the play. He brings something different as a winger. But I think as a bomber, I don't know. We like the term bomber, but I think it could be even more than Cody Gakpo.
Yeah. Would he, Sebastian, be an upgrade on what they've already got, given the signings that they have made? Yeah,
definitely, because we were talking earlier about the spines. And I think Roberto De Zerbi and Spurs have been working hard on strengthening their spine. Now Cody Gakpo is a bit on the wing, and with experience, he won title, and as I said earlier, he brings something different technically in short spaces and is a bit versatile, so he would be an upgrade.
Mentality is key as well. I spent a little bit of time with him in Eindhoven last summer, and he's that winner. We know that he has won the Premier League. He is so tough, so resilient. And when you think about some of the players in Tottenham's squad, in that sense, would he be a good addition as well?
He would, because he's been through the spectrum. Like, what I mean by that is, when he came, he struggled a little bit, so he's been through it. So he can actually help the new players that are going through that transition to get to the best of their ability. And I think that's, in that sense, it could be a great addition, yeah.
And before we touch on what Liverpool and Dan made the point, didn't he? They probably don't want to lose him. We'll hear from 𝗦𝗨𝗏 O'Connor in a minute. I'd be interested to know your mark out of 10 for Tottenham so far, in terms of, they did move quite quickly. They have, as Dan mentioned, spent big. What would you give them?
A 7 out of 10 for now, especially being a defender. I like when the teams bring some defenders, they strengthen the squad with that kind of reliableness. But I think they're still missing that touch up front on the side, and especially as a goal scorer, because no one has replaced Harry Kane still since.
No.
Do you think Gakpo is that, though? Do you think Gakpo, so you said a 7, does Gakpo take you from a 7 to an 8 or 9?
No.
I just wonder, he's going from somewhere at Liverpool, he's not playing a lot, right? Or he's in and out, playing different positions. He was part of Slot's side quite significantly, but I just wonder at Tottenham, is he a huge upgrade out wide or through the middle?
He's an upgrade that could turn into a huge one according to the result. It's always the same thing, same narrative. If you bring a result, then you're going to become the signing. But I think if
you want a better forward, don't you, for him to play into?
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. But I think that would be a 7.5.
OK, right. Well, we'll come back to you because we've got plenty more Spurs to discuss in a moment. But as Dan alluded to, the Liverpool side of it is far from simple, is it? He gave us, 𝗦𝗨𝗏 O'Connor, a bit of an update on his perception of this deal from Andoni Iraola and Liverpool's point of view a little bit earlier.
I'd be surprised because of the wide options that they have. And don't forget as well, Cody Gakpo can play through the middle. And with 𝗦𝗏𝗏 injured and no other option really through the centre apart from Isak, it wouldn't really make sense for Cody Gakpo to go unless they were getting someone else through the door. Of course, if Spurs are going to play top notch, then there's always a price, I suppose, for a player. And it might make business sense for Liverpool. But I don't think they would lessen their options in the attacking area unless they knew they were getting someone through the door.
through the door is the key bit there, isn't it? And Dan, we know that they have been linked to some pretty big names and one particular player this summer.
Absolutely. With Mo Salah leaving, of course, in the summer, they've been looking at who can fit that gap that someone like Salah, of such a legendary status, has left. And that target at the moment looks like PSG's Bradley Barcola. We saw him represent France in the summer, was very impressive. We've also seen him start repeatedly for PSG in the Champions League over the last 2 years. What's very complicated about this is PSG value him at around £145 million, which is a pretty hefty fee. So how Liverpool maybe look to negotiate that, we're expecting them to approach formally PSG for a move. I think for Barcola, he's looking at this PSG side just wanting to play week in, week out. He has 𝗦𝗣𝗨𝗥𝗦 𝗗𝗘 on one side, 𝗦𝗦𝗪 Dembélé on the other. So he's just looking to play more and more football. And maybe right now not looking at a contract extension at PSG, which is why he's being linked to the move away.
You balked at 145 million. Do you think he's worth it?
According to the market, he's won back-to-back Champions League. He's been almost starting every game with France. And listen, I'm a PSG born and raised kid, so I know exactly about the situation. And Bradley Barcola, I don't think he's scared about the competition at PSG, but he's just looking for something else. The Premier League is very appealing, and I think his style of play will suit Liverpool down to the ground. Now I think it's going to be a long saga. It's not going to happen overnight. But there's a big chance for him to be replacing Mo Salah.
I get what you're saying, but do you not think he's 23 now? You know, you have Kvaratskhelia, 𝗬𝗧, Dembélé all there in front of you at the moment. You have the potential of coming to Liverpool where you will be the star man.
That's
I'm just saying, the Premier League.
You know.
I think he's not scared of the competition at PSG because he's in the rotation. However, the Premier League is appealing regardless. He's been there, and there's been a lot of contract issue with his agent. There's been a lot of noise in the background. So I think it's time for him, according to himself, to go and see something else. I would love to keep him at PSG, but I'll be happy to see.
I mean, he's not bad to bring off the bench, is he, in a Champions League final? Let's be honest. Let's just stay with Spurs because Dan, Gakpo's the name that has emerged this morning. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, but it's not the only wide player that Roberto De Zerbi and Spurs have been linked with, is it?
No, and I'm not the right person to say if this classifies as a bomber. I'll let you decide that, Sebastian. But we talked a lot about last summer, Savinho potentially going to Tottenham. Tottenham remain interested in his potential signing. They have explored what a potential deal could look like for the Manchester City winger. City are aware that I think the Brazilian may want to leave the Etihad and explore other opportunities. And he did also sign a new contract last summer. What we can say, though, is we've also seen him play for Enzo Maresca's side most recently in their last friendly. So he is getting the minutes in. Maybe Maresca will have a different point of view to Pep Guardiola and make him feel more wanted at the club, but he remains a target for Tottenham to potentially arrive.
Bear in mind that if he got to be sold, he's got to get some minutes in. People got to showcase him in order for clubs to come and get him. So he made it clear that he wanted to leave. So he wouldn't be classed as the bomber for me because the link has been established last summer. So it wouldn't be a big surprise. However, it would be a great addition.
Better than Gakpo, who would you prefer if you could have one?
I would go for Savinho.
Because
he's left-footed. And I'm an ex-left-footed, but no, because of the pace. I think the way is very... You don't know where he's going to go. He can really bring a lot of, goals in this. Not so many goals, but I think in the Tottenham squad, he would bring more assists than he has done in the Man City squad because he hasn't been shining enough. He's
got lots of names
around him. In the Tottenham squad with Roberto De Zerbi, I think that kind of confidence that we were talking about, that he becomes the man. He would flourish, and I think, he would get the Tottenham fan up their seats and bring that kind of a bit like Son back in the days when he used to be very unpredictable, go left and right, and then score many goals and hopefully get some connection with the other players.
Can I ask you as a defender, though? The possibility of someone like Mohamed Kudus and the pace of Sevilla on both flanks I mean, that is pretty salivating, isn't it? And you feel like with Savinho, to get a run of games, play in, week out, there's another level there for him to reach probably in England and the Premier League. So Gakpo, you have the experience and the versatility for sure. But I think with Savinho, you still have an untapped potential there. And I think in a Tottenham team that, I think with what De Zerbi is going to want to play, a bit more high pressing, a lot more pace in that team. I'm just saying I mean, you can tell me a bit more.
I agree with you, but the only thing I kind of don't like in the football is the word potential. Because potential is not something concrete, it's not tangible.
For sure.
People keep talking about, he has potential, but people rarely reach their full potential. I think Roberto De Zerbi would be able to work with what he has now and enhance it rather than trying to tap into the potential. Where he is now, with a manager like De Zerbi and a team like Spurs, I think that's what Spurs need, and he would do great just right now. And if he gets better with reach his potential, that's a bonus.
Yeah, it's about how he fits into the players that they've got and the way that De Zerbi obviously wants to play. Look, you said, didn't you, 7.5 out of 10. You've been quite impressed by the way Spurs have built from the back.
Yeah.
So with 3 weeks left, would you like to see, I mean, this is what they've spent their money on so far. That's, given it 7.5. And there's some big players that have gone in terms of Van Hekken and Andy Robertson. I know you're impressed with him, but now they need to shift, don't they? You really want to see an out-and-out striker come in, don't you, for Spurs to really push on this season under De Zerbi and what he's trying to do?
I think that would be the last touch from the De Zerbi transfer market, because bear in mind, there's what he's trying to do, what he has in mind, the money's been spent, and then the actual players coming in. Then you need result, because the reason why I would say, even if you bring a striker, I would say in terms of transfer, it would have been an 8. Because for me, the last 2 points would be result. Because you can bring as many players as you want. And if you don't get the result, all that money would be spent wrongly. Right now, they're doing well. And I really like the way they've done it, early doors. And I think the striker, it's difficult to get your striker in early doors in the transfer market. It always costs more money. It's always a little bit more difficult. So that's why I think it's going to go towards the end of the transfer market. Hopefully not the last deadline day.
Come on, this is Tottenham, isn't it?
No, because it's different. But no, listen, Gail, we do things differently now at Spurs.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's going to be...
Well, it's the knock-on effect, Dan, isn't it? That sometimes clubs like Spurs that maybe aren't in the Premier League, aren't in the Champions League, you just have to wait that little bit longer to see where everybody moves in that jigsaw puzzle.
I think that's what I'm hearing on the ground at the moment, just from a lot of clubs, is they're really waiting to see, with the World Cup, it's kind of pushed everything along a little bit. So they've just been waiting a little bit to see how this market develops over the next few weeks before they make their moves.
Like, as you said, because of the World Cup, the transfer window is just starting a couple of days ago. Now people are getting excited. You've done maybe almost 2 weeks of pre-season, so you see how your players react. So that's the kind of time frame that managers and clubs in general needs to see, okay, what do we have? How are they getting on? Do you need to strengthen there and there? And the manager have some sort of first feedback. Yeah. Say, you know what, we need to push on that position. We need to push on that one. We need to raise that kid. So it's all a matter of timing. That's why it's very tricky. Yeah, brilliant. Well, we've got a little bit of breaking transfer news to bring you, which does involve Spurs. West Ham are exploring the conditions of a deal for Tottenham's Manor Solomon. The 27-year-old is one of the wide options the Hammers are interested in signing this summer. He has 2 years left on his contract. He's one of the players at Spurs expected to move on this summer. He spent last season on loan at Villarreal and Fiorentina. Well, Solomon should be match fit for the start of the EFL season if he does make the move. Only Archie Gray played more minutes than Solomon on Tottenham's pre-season tour of New Zealand and Australia over the past couple of weeks.
The way Liverpool would have wanted to finish their pre-season tour of the US. They were beaten 4-2 by Leeds United and conceded 2 goals from set pieces. Liverpool conceded the most goals from corners, throw-ins and free kicks in the league last season. So should the fans be concerned? We've got a quote here from Dominic Szoboszlai actually saying, now we know we conceded 2 goals from set pieces, we have to take care of them more. Last season was one where everything started to be really important on corners, long throws. We have to take care of it. Or next season, it will be the same as last season. Set pieces, everyone has to do their job or we won't concede. We're also human beings. We are allowed to make mistakes. We have to react. That's important. We have 2 games more before the season starts. So, Jay, how concerned should Liverpool fans be specifically about Liverpool's defending of set pieces?
I agree with what 𝗦𝗨𝗨 said there. I don't think it should be a major problem. I don't think anything in pre-season should be a major problem. Results, it's not about results in pre-season, it's about fitness, getting the minutes in your legs, putting your legs, through strain, training morning and afternoon, and obviously playing games every few days. I think the main part about pre-season is getting them minutes in. I always say to you, Tom, you're not going to see someone that's match fit until after about 4 to 5 games. But it's something that they do have to look at, but just like every other team, they have to look at it. I wouldn't pay much attention to it purely for the fact that Van Dijk wasn't in that back 4, Leone's not in that back 4, Jaquet's not in that back 4. So they're players that they probably would be starting. Joe
Gomez as well, you're still there.
Joe Gomez, he's still there, he's not in that back 4. So they're players that I would look at and say they're going to be the centre-half options. They wasn't playing. So I'm not going to look at this and say this is, crisis time for Liverpool in pre-season. But like every other team, Arsenal are one of the strongest at it. They concentrate on it. So especially when you're playing against the stronger teams from set pieces, you need to be on top of that. And the fact that they conceded some soft goals last year means they need to work on it. But there's lots of other things they need to work on. And I think it's going to be mainly the way Liverpool play under Iraola.
When it comes to set pieces on a training ground, if you're playing for a club, yes, OK, you're a striker, but if your side are conceding a lot of goals from set pieces, how easy is that to fix in the training ground rather than in the transfer market? I mean, assumingly, given your height, I assume that you were actually part of defending the set pieces.
Yeah, I definitely was. And to be perfectly honest, Tom, I wasn't that good at marking because, people will say, oh, but you're tall, you're strong or whatnot. But I don't have a defensive mindset. So for me, even though I need to clear the ball, I'm always thinking about breaking. So sometimes I might get caught ball watching and then someone runs off me and it's not good. To be honest, I think that all players, from a selfish point of view, especially if you're marking man-to-man, you should only be focused on your player not scoring. And if everyone does that, then you're not going to concede goals. But sometimes now we see zonal marking, and when you're zonal marking, no one really has the responsibility. You can't say that's your fault because he can say, well, in that moment I was looking at this area. It is more difficult now, especially when you see the likes of Arsenal's routines where they start literally behind all the defenders. So then if the ball coming from this way and the defenders are starting, the attackers are starting from here, you can't look at the ball and the attackers at the same time. So it is more difficult, but I think you just have to tell the players, listen, you need to be aggressive in both boxes. The way you go and attack the ball when you're trying to score a goal is the same way you attack it defensively. But it's definitely something you work on in the training ground.
We're going to break away from Liverpool for just a moment, all right? But we've got a little transfer update here, and it involves the Tottenham captain, Christian Romero, because we're told that Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan are still interested in signing the centre-back, and there is an expectation that Romero will leave Tottenham this summer, just a year on from being made captain. And, of course, he signed a new deal as well last summer. Roberto De Zerbi has spoken to the Argentina international to discuss his future, or he will do when he returns from his post-World Cup break. And he has suggested this summer in an interview with Football London that he does not want to stand in Romero's way should he wish to leave. So the little update on that is that Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan remain interested in Christian Romero. Right, back to Liverpool now. We can cross live to our reporter, Vinny O'Connor, who follows Liverpool up and down the country and around Europe for us. Good morning to you, Vinny. Now, Liverpool, they looked good in the first half against Leeds in that friendly last night. That may change at half-time because they always do in pre-season. But is their squad depth a concern heading into the new season?
Yeah, I kind of got the point that Jay was making as regards the fact that Liverpool conceding set pieces and they haven't got their first choice centre-back partnership out there at the moment. In fact, Virgil van Dijk is effectively the only fit senior centre-half that Liverpool have at the disposal at the moment, because Jdk, we know his season was cut short through injury with Red last campaign with that shoulder problem that he had, and he obviously had surgery on that. And he seems to have started pre-season pretty well, and Iraola was really happy with how he was progressing, but then he felt a bit of discomfort, so Liverpool are being cautious with him, and there's that injury, of course, to Joe Gomez. Leone is still coming back from an ACL as well, so Liverpool don't have their first choice centre-half. Well, I think that's where the concern is for fans at the moment, and it is that squad depth, the options that they have at centre-half, because we know what Joe Gomez's injury record is like, for instance, and Liverpool don't have a more experienced backup to come in if Joe Gomez isn't available. On top of that, you could argue that they potentially need extra reinforcements in that defensive midfield area, because another option to play at centre-half, obviously, is Ryan Gravenberch. And I think looking at last season, there's also an argument to say that his workload in that defensive midfield area was pretty high. Without that backup, McAllister can obviously play there, but again, it's not necessarily a role that suits him. And we also know that on top of that, of course, Liverpool are still looking to add pace to the side. They want to add another option in the wide attacking areas. So again, Bradley Barcola is the prime target at the minute, as we understand, after missing out on Yan Diomande. So there's a lot going on at Liverpool as regards that, and certainly I think the concern amongst the fans, they don't necessarily read too much into a pre-season friendly. At the same time, they will look at that squad depth and ask, is it really enough going into the new season?
Jay, it looks like Liverpool could be busy then, because Vinny's there mentioned centre-back, he's mentioned midfield. Barcola's a wide player. Of course, they don't have Mo Salah anymore, who's taken up the right wing for several years. Liverpool, Iraola, do you think they've got quite a lot to do between now and that first game in 2.5 weeks' time?
I think 3 signings. Well, again, like you said there, Vinny, like you said, Tom, centre-half definitely, because of the injury record that, a lot of, even right-back, there's an injury concern there for Frimpong. He gets injured quite a bit. Obviously, Conor Bradley, he gets injured quite a bit. Then Joe Gomez, injury prone. Definitely some strengthening needs to be there in the centre and right back positions. I think an upgrade in midfield. Again, I would look at more a box-to-box midfielder, a bit like McAllister, because even though McAllister played well a few years ago, last season he wasn't up to standards. I think he had a decent World Cup as well, but he needs some competition in there. I don't think Barcola is the player that Liverpool should be looking at, especially for 150 million. He plays on the left-hand side. He is not a right winger. Liverpool need to buy a right-sided player. Whether it be, a left-footed player playing on the right or an out-and-out right winger. That's what needs to be replaced. On the left-hand side, Gakpo's still there. Rio Ngamoura, I don't think you can leave him out of the team anymore. By all accounts, when he was with England, before they went to the World Cup, he was frightening. He was electric. He's like, when he plays in the side last year, no one knows what to do with him. So I think this is a season where he needs to play more regular. But I would definitely go and say defence and right wing is the most important.
Vinny, can I just ask you there, we've been reporting that Tottenham are interested in signing Cody Gakpo from Liverpool. Can you see Liverpool letting him go?
I'd be surprised because of the wide options that they have. And don't forget as well, Cody Gakpo can play through the middle. And with 𝗦𝗍𝗥𝗦 injured and no other option really through the centre apart from Isak, it wouldn't really make sense for Cody Gakpo to go unless they were getting someone else through the door. Of course, if Spurs are going to play top notch, then there's always a price, I suppose, for a player, and it might make business sense for Liverpool. But I don't think they would lessen their options in an attacking area unless they knew they were getting someone through the door. But again, when we go back to what Liverpool are prioritising this summer, and when it comes to those kind of defensive reinforcements that we're talking about them potentially needing, we're still being told by the club that it is a wide attacking player that is the priority. And we've also got to bear in mind that Liverpool have already spent £100 million, over £100 million in this calendar year. So again, it's almost like they're prioritising the wide attack, but they're not necessarily looking at defensive reinforcements as a priority at the moment. And that might be a concern and a surprise to Liverpool fans as well. At the same time, there's always that caveat with Liverpool when if one of their long-term targets becomes available, then they have that ability to move in the transfer market. But again, I'm sure that they will be looking at long-term targets and seeing if there is something that is doable between now and the end of this transfer window.
The plan last season was probably to mould the whole team around 𝗦𝗣𝗨 and Isak when they came in for big money last season. They were praised for their performance in the first half last night, and they are now both fit. Do you think that would be the plan this season, to mould the team around them?
I think it would make sense. And I think we saw flashes at times from Florian Wirtz last season. I remember that period. I think it was around the Christmas period. They played Wolves on the 27th of December, and Florian Wirtz scored in that goal. And I think that was the start of a run of 6 goals in 10 games. I think the last goal he scored in that run was against Newcastle on the 31st of January, a 4-1 win. But I think when you look at Liverpool and how they wanted to build the team around those two, then they just didn't play together enough because of those injuries to Alexander Isak. And I think there was a little bit of interruption for Wirtz's back end of the season, at least with a few niggling little injuries as well, which maybe hampered his momentum a little bit. But Alexander Isak only started 8 Premier League games and was a substitute on 6 other occasions in the Premier League. So 14 Premier League appearances. He picked up that broken leg against Spurs, of course, as well. And as I say, when you spent that amount of money, you obviously want your players on the pitch a lot more regularly to strike up that kind of relationship. Now, there were positive signs last night, and Liverpool fans, and certainly Andoni Iraola, will be hoping he could get the best out of the pairing as well going into the new season, and maybe that was a sign of things to come this night as well.
Vinny, are you seeing a difference in the way Liverpool play under Iraola compared to Slot? And what's it looking like for Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones? Because they played a bit part last year.
Yeah, I think Curtis Jones remains an important player for Liverpool, albeit he's into the final year of his contract because of the options or lack of potential options coming in, I suppose, in that midfield area as well. So again, from a footballing point of view, it doesn't necessarily make sense for Curtis Jones to go. And obviously we know that Harvey Elliott can cover wide right. Okay, he's not out and out paced down the right-hand side, but he can cover in midfield as well. So again, it'll be interesting to see exactly how Iraola is able to use Harvey Elliott this season. But I was going back to what you said earlier, Jay, and the kind of style, what you're like when it came to marking at set pieces and wanting to get on the front foot straight away. That's what we see with Andoni Iraola, I think, already, is the fact that it's how quickly can we get the ball forward, how quickly can we get the ball to our attacking players and cause the opposition a threat. And I think that's going to be the big difference that Liverpool fans are going to see this new season.
OK, Vinny, great stuff, thank you.
Thanks, Vinny.